Good morning, friends. Welcome to Empty Cloud Monastery. This morning we're here with Ajahn Kovilo. Thank you, Ajahn, for spending time here at Empty Cloud Monastery and sharing the Dhamma with us. And hello to our friends Nancy, Kyle, and Kumu, who are checking in and saying hello, and welcome to everyone else who I see just as a little number on the screen. So without further ado, I'll pass it on to Ajahn Kovilo, who will be sharing some Dhamma with us this morning.
Okay, thank you, Aisama. Can start with homage to the Triple Gem. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang dhammang sanghang namasami. Okay, so good morning, good evening to everyone who's tuning in or is live. It's a Thursday morning. It's a great morning to listen to the Dhamma, similar to Wednesdays and Fridays and the other ones as well. This morning, we'll be talking about a very important part of meditation practice of a Dhammic life. And it's something which you might not necessarily learn at every meditation center, and that is walking meditation. So the talk today will first look at the why of walking meditation. Why do walking meditation? What are the benefits? And we'll go through a discourse, Anguttara 529, and there's a link below on YouTube, which points to that discourse. And after describing these 5 reasons that the Buddha gives for why we should practice walking meditation, we'll give a bit of a look at the range of different ways of practicing walking meditation that different teachers and different traditions teach. So to start off with, thought I'd just ask this question. So there's a common question which, or a common proposition, which you find, say, in modern romantically influenced belief systems, that all paths lead to the top of the mountain. And I think a traditional response from most every religion's, a conservative response is, there's no mountain in the world that all the paths lead to the top. You know, some paths lead off a cliff, and some paths lead to the top. But yeah, that's a very odd mountain that all the paths lead to the top. And I think I've heard conservative Buddhist teachers give a similar approach. But for our conversation today, we ask the question, do all walking paths lead to Nibbana? That's the question. And yeah, you'll find many different meditation teachers who are very specific about their method. Yeah, you go to a meditation center and they only teach their method, and not only do they just teach their method, but they diminish and kind of put down other methods of practice, whether it's sitting meditation or walking meditation, or ways to practice through one's daily life. But a useful teaching I find is in the Mahaparinibbana Sutta, Digha Nikaya number 16. One of the last things that the Buddha said when he had already lied down and was about to pass away, a wanderer named Buddha, I believe, came to him and had a number of questions. But one of the questions was similar to this: do all paths lead to awakening? And the Buddha's answer was that any path which practices the eightfold path, so any way of practice which incorporates those 8 things, can be said to lead to awakening. And so similarly, I think we can say that any walking meditation methodology which involves those 8 factors, specifically 3 of them, namely right effort, right mindfulness, and right view. If you've got those 3 kind of circling around your your mind as you walk your meditation path, then yeah, I think the Buddha would say that that's a valid method. So we'll be looking at this and seeing what different teachers suggest, because there is a spectrum, all sorts of different ways to practice. So to get to the sutta, I can just read the whole sutta. The Anguttara Nikaya is my favorite collection. Anguttara means what's usually translated as numerical or by the number. So in the Anguttara fives, you've got all things which have 5 items in them. And so this is a very short discourse, as are many in this collection. And so I'll just read the whole discourse. So practitioners, and I'm translating from Bhikkhave. So practitioners, there are these 5 rewards for one who practices walking meditation. Which 5? One can endure traveling by foot. One can endure exertion. One becomes free from disease. Whatever one has eaten and drunk, chewed and savored becomes well digested. And the 5th benefit is that the concentration one wins while doing walking meditation lasts for a long time. These are the 5 rewards for one who practices walking meditation. So yeah, that sounds like some good stuff. The first one, one can endure traveling by foot. The Pali is adhana kamo. So kama is to endure. It's here it's used as a one can endure, one can tolerate, and adhana can mean either like a road, so one can endure traveling. So that's how this translation, which I believe is Nisaro Bhikkhu, one can endure traveling by foot. But another meaning for adhana is time, or a time period. So this is one reason which I really appreciate walking meditation, is that you come to a monastery and you actually find that you have time. Like after the meal, we've spent the morning at most monasteries, including here at Empty Cloud, practicing in a communal way. We've got group meditation, we've got a communal work period, we've got the meal, we do all these things together. But then after the meal, we've got 5, 6+ hours when we're just by ourselves. And for a lot of people, myself included, first coming to the monastery, you just find, if you've lived your whole life, say as a young American, basically all of your most days, at least during the school year, is just taken up with classes, and basically you don't have much control at all of what you're doing with your life. And then many Americans go to college, and then that's all organized for you. And then you get a job, and then 5 out of your 7 days are basically organized for you, how you're told how you're got to spend your day. You come to a monastery and you've got this spaciousness, and especially if you've given up your phone, you've turned off your Wi-Fi, you can't just amuse yourself, you can't amuse away these entertain yourself for all these hours, and you're like, what the heck do I do with my time? And walking meditation is one way which lets you endure all that time. Like if you don't have methods, if all you do is sitting meditation and your mind isn't peaceful in that yet, then time becomes oppressive. And walking is an alternative to sitting. So it's good to have a good relationship with walking meditation, because it's a fully valid way to practice mindfulness in the Buddhist tradition. Second one is that one can endure exertion. Similarly, kamo, one can endure padana, is exertion or effort. So if your only posture that you can, quote, practice in is sitting posture, which certain very well-known meditation teachers will teach, they'll kind of poo-poo any other posture, say the real practice is sitting, just sitting. Anything else is kind of a lesser practice, is a second at best. But again, it's the rare person who can just sit, for every waking hour, and yeah, it's not really desirable. We do have a body, and we need to balance out the postures. That's when you hear teachers in the Thai forest tradition, Ajahn Chah included, they'll say there are these 4 postures in Buddhism. You've got sitting, you've got walking, you've got standing, and lying down. And it's said that you need to balance those postures. And that doesn't mean just, say, if you sleep for 6 to 8 hours, then you've got 16 to 18 hours of waking life. So you spend 4 hours sitting, 4 hours walking, 4 hours standing, or some kind of math like that. No, it's basically like figuring out what works for you in terms of what balance. And in the Thai forest tradition, which is different from certain Burmese lineages, which do emphasize a majority of sitting practice, Thai forest tradition under Ajahn Mun gave a lot of emphasis and importance and credit to this practice of walking meditation. It said that Ajahn Mun, the father of the forest tradition in Thailand in the 1900s, that was his main posture. It was walking meditation over sitting meditation. He was an expert in jhana, but for various different physical reasons, it said that he had hemorrhoids, so just couldn't sit for too long in a stretch. So he would do many, many, many hours of walking meditation in a day. So that's one way we can endure exertion. The third benefit is that you become free from disease. And this is something which, yeah, you'll hear all over the place in modern society. Just any health expert is going to tell you that, yeah, for knowledge workers, so many people these days just work at a computer all day long. And I think in most, or at least many well-known sectors of this knowledge work economy, so all the big Apple, Facebook, all of these things, for the workers that have standing desks, at least some places even have like treadmill desks. So yeah, walking does help. There's a statement which is sitting is the new smoking. So this is not aimed at meditators, because we do want to encourage people to sit. But for people who are just sitting at their desk, like more and more humped over, who don't, haven't given much attention to what their posture is like. Yeah, you need to balance it out. Go for a walk every every hour. That's what these things like Fitbit will set an alarm if you want to encourage you to get up and walk for 5 minutes, 10 minutes each hour. And yeah, that's great. But if you can do 5 or 10 minutes of walking meditation throughout your day, then it's even more balancing. The fourth benefit is that what you've consumed, eaten, drunken, chewed, and savored becomes fully digested. I think that's in line with modern nutrition and health advice as well. And then the fifth benefit is that concentration one wins while doing walk meditation lasts for a long time. I think this is true because, if you compartmentalize your formal meditation practice or your meditation practice as being only what you do while you're sitting with your eyes closed, then it's harder to take those principles into your daily life when you're moving around, talking to people. Whereas with walking meditation, you're practicing practicing keeping the mind still while the body is moving. Keeping the mind still while the body is moving, so that when you start going about the rest of your day, having interactions, going here, going there, it's easier to take the principles that you've been practicing on the meditation path into these other realms. So it lasts longer. So these are the 5 rewards for practicing walking meditation. So now comes the fun part. How do you do it? How do you do walking meditation? In the Pali Canon, it's not really fleshed out. The Buddha, I think there are 2 places where the Buddha gives, any kind of guidance on how to do walking meditation. One of them is in the Satipatthana Sutta and elsewhere, where the Buddha describes one aspect of mindfulness of the body is mindfulness and clear comprehension, sati and sampajanya, with the different positions of the body. So abhikante, patikante, sampajanakari. So in going forward and in going back, one is a practitioner of mindfulness and clear comprehension, but that's it in those discourses. And then in the definition of Jagarayana Yoga, in the definition of devotion to wakefulness, the Buddha says that one maintains mindfulness and clear comprehension either by sitting or walking back and forth. And again, that's it. That's all you get. That's all the Buddha gives us in specifics for how to do meditation. And as other people have mentioned, other teachers have mentioned, this bare bones approach, which you get in the suttas, is both it both has benefits, and for certain people there are drawbacks to it. Many people want to learn, but how? What are the specifics of that? And they have so many questions. So for someone who has a lot of questions, then that bare bones approach seems lacking. But in another sense, it really gives you a lot of freedom, which is what we'll be looking at. What is the spectrum of different walking meditation practices which are allowable? So we'll look at two aspects of the how of walking meditation. One are the externals. So where and when and in what environment to practice walking meditation, and what to do with the body while you're doing it. And then the internal, or the mental focus. So the bodily focus and the mental focus, these are the two realms that we'll look at. So what are the external variables for walking meditation? Speed. So how fast or how slow do you want to do walking meditation? When mindfulness in a Theravada context first came to America and the West, it was largely through retreat centers like IMS and later Spirit Rock, which were heavily influenced by Mahasi Sayadaw, who taught a very, very slow method of walking meditation, where you're noting every very slow lifting, moving, placing, every step, and very slow. So if your normal walking speed was, say, like 50 on a scale from 0 to 100, then the Mahasi Sayadaw method would be maybe you're walking at a pace of 10 out of 100, perhaps. Whereas you've got teachers like Ajahn Chah, or teachers in the Ajahn Chah tradition, who will say maybe walk slightly slower than normal. So maybe out of that 0 to 100, movement scale, maybe going at 40 or 45. And this helps you if you're walking totally at normal pace, then especially if you're normally a fast walker, then the mind just might not be able to catch up to all the movements and the workings of the mind. So but you can also just practice free and easy moving. I mean, Ajahn Lumpur Liam teaches that it's a great quote that that basically just try to step and walk with ease. So basically move about normally, but in an easy way. So you've got, experiment with those. Slightly slower than normal, very slow, or just at a normal pace. How about you can think of it as like the shape of the walking meditation path. Say at places like City of 10,000 Buddhas in the Master Hua tradition of Mahayana Buddhism and others, you kind of snake along. You've got a long line of people who are practicing like as a snake, like you'd see like in a club, like a conga line, except there's not touching and there's not kind of the dancing that goes along with it. But you are in this line of people. And basically you just follow the leader. So at City of 10,000 Buddhas, you're just like snaking around the meditation paths and then in big circles around the hall. So that's one way, is you can do a big circle, whether you're alone or in your group. I really actually like continuous walking meditation, whether it's in my room, in a square, or in a triangle in a room, or in a rectangle, or in a long oval. There's something about the continuity of that which I can appreciate. But most teachers in the Thai forest tradition will teach a back and forth method. So you're on one walking meditation path, and you're just walking forward, turn around, establish mindfulness, walk back, turn around, establish mindfulness, walk back and forth like this. So those are two different methods. How about the length of the path? So Ajahn Mun gave a lot of very specific instructions on walking meditation. So with regards to the length, he said that a walking meditation path should not be shorter than 17 steps. So very specific advice. And yeah, he obviously practiced a lot, so there was some reasoning for that. I think most in a Thai forest monastery, whether it's in Thailand or in Western countries, basically if you come to the monastery as a monk or as a visitor, you're assigned a hut. So everybody's got a different place that they dwell. And all the huts have their own walking meditation path. And for the most part, these walking meditation paths are 20 to 30 feet. So that's a lot longer than 17 steps. And 30 feet is a good distance, but even further than that can work as well. But also even shorter than, say, if you're staying in a monastery or a hut, which is smaller than 17 steps, then one way, if you're doing just the line-based walking meditation, is to walk the diagonal. So you can get whatever that's always longer than the two sides. So that's one way to do it. And if you're doing walking meditation inside, then that diagonal works. And also walking slightly slower than normal is better, because if you're just bounding or even walking at a normal pace, like you're gonna, smack into the wall in, 2 or 3 seconds. So walk a bit slower inside. How about the orientation of the walking meditation path directionally? So this is another thing which Lumpur Mun mentioned, is that a walking meditation path should be oriented from east to west. Yeah, so you're kind of walking with the sun. He said there can be some variance to that, like walking at the diagonals, but you shouldn't have a walking meditation path which is north to south. That said, if your only path, you've moved to some place that has got a little walkway and it's only north to south, then it's probably better to practice walking meditation than to have your excuse be that Lumpur Mun said don't do it. So how about indoors versus outdoors? I almost said X-doors, which is not correct English. Indoors versus outdoors. Again, in the forest tradition, we've got in a sense, the luxury of practicing outside. But many forest monasteries, there are ways to have a covered walking meditation path, but not every path is covered. And so there's the liability that if it rains or if it's snowing in the West, which happens, then it's harder to do walking meditation outside. But if you do it outside, you've got the wind, you've got the breeze, and there's just something soothing to looking everywhere and nothing around you, especially if you're in a very remote wilderness, especially like a rainforest. Nothing around you has jagged right edges, which is like everything you see inside of a modern building. And everything around you is green, which has, for many people, a very soothing effect. So everywhere you look, and we'll get down to this, what do you do with your eyes? But even if you look up, everything is just peaceful. It's natural. It's not sucking your attention this way and that with really alluring sights, which can be the case if you're in certainly in a city type setting or indoors. But yeah, if you can't walk outside, then indoors is certainly, I've done a lot of walking indoors, and perfectly fine. Hand posture. What do you do with your hands? Again, Ajahn Mun said, put your right hand over your left hand in front of your body. There's a feeling from other Thai force Ajahn said, if you put your hands behind your back, then that's too military. So if you have your hands in front of your body, then that's somehow more appropriate to this difference posture. And I can see the benefit of that. If you've got talk about choice architecture in like house design or in the design of a supermarket, and similarly the choice architecture of your body, of your room, if you've got certain places in your room where you only do meditation, then that place will call to you and your mind will become peaceful if around your meditation cushion. But if you just like, oh, I don't need a special place, I can just do meditation on my bed, then you might find yourself falling asleep. And similarly, I think if you place your hands it's kind of weird, from an American perspective. I never grew up walking with my hands in front of me. So you can actually like train yourself when your hands are kind of lightly clasped in front of your body. This is meditation. I'm really trying to put effort into being mindful and alert. And then just by doing that hand motion, it kind of is an external cue for your internal mindfulness that you can come back. But that said, you can also do it with your hands behind your back or your hands slightly swinging as well. You've got options. For eye focus, many people say walk with 2 plow lengths in front of you. But for most Americans, how long is a single plow length? Not to mention, I've done Google searches to figure out like how long a plow length is. But you've got this modern, about 6 feet or 2 meters is about 2 plow lengths. So that's one suggestion. But experiment. What works for maximizing? Take mindfulness as your governing principle, your adhipateya, that which is governing your choices. Yeah, take mindfulness. Whatever eye focus, whatever hand focus, indoors, outdoors, all these choices, take your governing principle being what maximizes your ability to stay clear and awake and alert and mindful. Thich Nhat Hanh recommends a smile. So when you go about your walking meditation path, similar to the hand gesture, okay. Yeah, just like a gentle little smile. Hey, why not? Yeah, the mind slips off and then you just realize that you're smiling and it's like, oh yeah, I was smiling because I was practicing walking meditation, and that can be another external cue for internal mindfulness. And then how long do you want to do walking meditation in terms of period of time? And do what you can. If you're at your job and you can get a 5-minute break every hour, go to some abandoned hallway, go walk up a flight of stairs, go to the roof. If you've got a single person bathroom, go to the bathroom, lock the door. You can do walking meditation in there, especially if you're doing the Mahasi method, you're doing it slow. You won't run into the urinal. But yeah, longer periods of time as well. I've heard of monks, and I know monks who've do 3 hours, 5 hours, 8 hours of walking meditation in a stretch. 8 hours is a lot, especially if you're not doing any sitting in between that. 5 hours is a lot. But most or many walking meditation paths in forest monasteries will have a path and then a walking meditation bench at the end of the path. So if you are a layperson and you can design your home, then find a place in your house to do walking meditation and then devote that section, that 17-step section to walking meditation, and then have a sitting meditation cushion just right nearby so you can alternate. So those are the external things to consider, and we've given you a large range. And for anybody who's like, this is a really stupid Dhamma talk, basically all I want is the most simple method. Just give me a method. I don't really care about this range. Just give me the thing and I'll do it. All this stuff is just making me think more. And what I want from meditation is to think less. And for people who are of that disposition, then fair enough. Maybe you shouldn't listen to so many Dhamma talks if you don't want to listen to Dhamma talks. But yeah, for people who, if you're giving yourself to meditation, especially if you're young, if you're coming to this, you're 18 or 19, and you're seeing the benefits of sitting meditation, of walking meditation, of having mindfulness in your life, then maybe you've got 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 years left in your life. And I don't know any practitioner who has been able to take one method as their whole life practice. Even people who are extremely devoted to one particular path. I mean, the Goenka method really encourages this. All you should be doing is the Goenka scanning method. But still, what do you do in conversation? What do you do when you're walking? And if you can scan your body while you're walking, then that's great. But for many people, you find that having a spectrum of tools in your toolkit. So that's a metaphor you hear often in meditation circles. The Buddha didn't just teach, he didn't just give us a hammer. We've got multiple screwdrivers and all sorts of things in our toolkit, and maybe different types of walking meditation are different types of screwdrivers, perhaps. So what do we do with our mind? That's the second focus, which is almost of more importance than what we're doing with our body. And again, we find that different teachers teach different focuses for the mind. So what do you take as your satipatthana, your foundation of mindfulness, your basis of mindfulness while you're doing walking meditation? Many teachers will say, pay attention to the sensations on the soles of your feet. So as you're walking, just with every step, you can feel the pressure of your feet touching the ground. Next step, touching. Weight, gravity, touching. Just each step knowing that. And that's a nice gentle focus. You don't need it's not too intense. Other meditation teachers, we mentioned Mahasi Sayadaw, who teaches a noting method with it, whatever you're doing, whether it's breath meditation where you're noting in breath or expanding and contracting, out breath, or whether it's walking meditation and you're noting different parts of the walking meditation. So one foot lifting, moving, placing, lifting, moving, placing. And you're actually, that quote is actually in your mind. So you're taking the statement and the movement as your focus of meditation. And again, if you're walking very slowly, then your mind can become very concentrated with that technique. And this is something to ask yourself when you start off your meditation. You can devote this period of time, this 5 minutes, this 10 minutes, this hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, and devote it to keeping the mind awake. And then looking, like, what does the mind need right now? Is the mind agitated? Do I need to settle the mind? Or is the mind lethargic and slothful? And do I actually need to, keep the mind awake and alert and attentive? Is the mind agitated? And do I need to actually just give it some space? Am I uptight and am I really nervous? If you're really in a nervous place or you're anxious, then for some people, this noting or very specific and slow walking can actually exacerbate anxiety. You're actually increasing your concentration, which can then focus even more intently on all of your problems. So at that point, you might want to take a Lumpur Liam approach, which is basically just ease. Ease is your primary principle. So a quote from Lumpur Liam is the abbot of Wat Nong Papong, the successor in a way to Lumpur Cha. So the secret of walking meditation is to walk in a manner that will imprint nothing but peaceful happiness with each step. In our daily lives, the steps we take are laden with our anxieties and concerns, weighed down with fear. You could say our lives are built up on months and years of worry. That is why we cannot take our steps with ease. Therefore, walk with ease. So yeah, just going on a walk. Yeah, sometimes that's all you can do. That's what's best, in a sense. Like, you have the mindfulness to note that if I don't yet have the skill in directing my mindfulness such that any direct object I take is going to make my my mental situation worse. So basically, yeah, I'm just going to go for a walk and let the mind be spacious in that way. So that's another way of doing walking meditation practice. Many Thai teachers will teach using a mantra. So Buddho. So right foot Bud, left foot toe, put toe, Bud, do, Bud, do. And the meaning of that is just awake, awake, awake. And if you have a positive connotation with that word, then it can just be beautiful, and it can be thrilling and filled with wonder even. But really, you can use any meditation word you want if you want to practice with a meditation word. Another thing is just chanting practice. You're living in a monastery, you're learning chants. You can use the walking meditation as chants to practice the different things you're learning. The Visuddhimagga teaches a very specific way of noting the 4 elements as you're walking. So as you are moving your feet forward, then that's the fire element. You're putting forth energy. As you step down and feel the weight of that, that's the earth element. As you, I believe, as you move your feet along, that's the air element. And then the water is the internal fluidity of the whole movement. So if you want more instructions on that, you'll get a lot of pages in the Visuddhimagga. So, and then finally, just, we touched on it briefly, is just choiceless awareness. So, just being okay with keeping the mind balanced in an awake stance as you walk about. And that's fine. You're just awake and the mind's bright and you're walking back and forth. You can have awareness of the whole body. Just keep your awareness of the whole body, knowing from the soles of the feet up to the top of the head, just knowing the whole body as you walk, and just letting the mind be expansive. So we've got the 5 reasons for why to do walking meditation. It helps you endure time, endure the road, helps you endure putting forth effort. It helps you be free from disease. It helps your digestion, and the concentration that comes from it will last a long time. So there's the benefits, and there are many others, which you'll start to find as you do more walking meditation. You've got different, basically, you could summarize all of those details that I went through of where to do and what to do and how to do walking meditation. Basically just say, do walking meditation whenever you can, wherever you can, in a place which is most suitable to mindfulness. And if you can't find a place which is most suitable, then next most suitable, or the most suitable that you can find. And in terms of what to do with the mind, just maintaining balance and figuring out what the mind needs, and then walking in a way which conduces to that. So those are a bunch of general thoughts about walking meditation, and maybe close the formal talk and open it up for questions.
Annamayang Dhammakataya Sarukarang Nadamase
Sadhu, sadhu. Thank you so much, Ajahn Kovilo, for that beautiful talk. And thank you for all our friends to join us. And Bhante Sudaso, did you have?
I have a question.
Great.
So I never before heard this idea that you should be walking east-west, and that north-south is not so good. Do you have any idea why Ajahn Mun said that?
I wondered about it. I mean, it certainly would have to do something with the sun. I mean, he was largely, I mean, he never spent 2 vasas in the same place until he was like in his, towards the last 5 years of his life. So he was always living outside. So it would have something to do with the sun. But that said, one would think that like if you're doing it east-west, then you're more likely to get the sun directly in your eyes. So no, I don't have a good answer. If anybody who's listening is more familiar with this, and when he says it, I've read the passage. It's very just matter of fact, like you should do this. And whoever was listening to him wasn't, bold enough to say, Ajahn, what do you mean? It doesn't make any sense. Or why do you say that? Because obviously, I mean, I think he does have a reason, but I just can't penetrate it. Do you have any thoughts? No,
pretty clueless on that.
Right. And Nancy says, I was at Blue Cliff Monastery, so here upstate New York, and I was afraid to walk because of ticks. So I was reading. A monastic sprayed me with bug spray and said, come. I couldn't resist her, and I loved it. And lots of thank yous and happy remarks. They all appreciated your talk. And Melissa says, when I'm walking, I imagine each step is a kiss to the earth with my foot, sending love through my feet and back to my heart from the earth. Connect with, we breathe.
Maybe I can respond to those 2 points.
Sure.
So for Nancy, I mean, one thing you'll find in forest monasteries is that the walking meditation paths at all the huts are very well kept. Either they've been especially designed so that they're basically like tamped earth, oftentimes within a wooden, oftentimes pressure-treated wood frame. So you've got pressure-treated wood, which are basically just 2x4s cut or planted into the ground on each side, and then one on either end of the path. And that's maybe 2.5 feet wide frame by whatever, 20 to 30 feet. And then all of the earth in there has been dug up and then tamped down, and then more dirt added. So, and then any kind of stray kind of pieces of grass which might come into the path are oftentimes kept trimmed back, so you don't have to worry about ticks. So if you can do that, if you can set up a place in your house or wherever you are that is kind of free from ticks, that's certainly, I mean, there's lots of ticks in California, and where you were, of course the ticks are possibly carrying Lyme's. So but if there's just no chance really for, ticks aren't going to be like walking along this barren, dirty, track without any grass. They're going to be coursing. I think there's a special word for what ticks do when they hang out on the edge of a piece of grass, like waiting to come and suck on your leg. So clearing your path. For the second comment about kissing the earth, finding metaphors and images that work for you. One thing which Thich Nhat Hanh mentions, which I think is related to early biographies of the Buddha, are basically with every step that the Buddha took, it said, it might even be in the Acharya Abhuta Sutta about when the Buddha was first born, every step he took, there was a lotus. Is that? Yeah. A lotus grew up, and whether that's like some kind of psychic lotus or if it's actual lotus, that's another beautiful image. Like, can you walk in a way which is so soft and delicate and mindful that, it would be as if a lotus is growing up there. One other kind of cool mind experiment is that, say someone with the divine eye, or if this is possible, forget about whether you believe in clairvoyance or divine eye or something. If it was possible to see the peacefulness of mind in someone's footsteps, yeah, as like a color. So it's like if the person was very peaceful, then it's a very beautiful light blue color. And if they were very angry and agitated, then it's like a bright red color. If someone had the eye to see that, whether or not that exists, that capacity, then what would my footsteps look like? Would they be bright white? Would they be peaceful blue? Would they be green? Would they be agitated red and fiery? So yeah, you're like leaving imprints on the places you go. So it's another image.
Great, thank you, Bantim. And Upasikatara says, I was walking during the Dhamma talk, so I was able to try some of your suggestions real time. Very fun.
Nice.
And Nancy says, could you please write down the sutta that was referenced for the noting 4 elements walking?
It's in the Visuddhimagga. So I think if you, no, it's not. It's in the Samanyapala Sutta commentary. So if you go to Access to Insight, Digha Nikaya 2 commentary, then it has, I'm sorry, no, it's not. It's in the Way of Mindfulness, which is a commentary to the Satipatthana Sutta, which is translated by Soma Terra. And again, Access to Insight, Way of Mindfulness. And then that has a whole section on the mindfulness and clear comprehension. And then there's a big section of that which goes into clear comprehension as you walk back and forth in the 4 elements. And so it's in one of those 3. I'm pretty sure it's in the Way of Mindfulness. Yeah.
Thank you, Ajahn. Very impressive, your memory. Elaine says, east to west, the thinking going against the natural gravitational pulls maybe helps keep mind sharp and clear. I know it's recommended to sleep north to south to induce relaxation, so maybe walk opposite to maintaining alertness. Just a guess.
Interesting. I mean, the one in relation to that theory, I mean, Thailand would have been closer to the equator. I don't know how that changes things. Yeah, at any rate, thank you for those thoughts. If anyone else has any.
Can you speak a little bit more about using walking meditation to recall, memorize chanting, and I guess also teachings, and I would assume suttas? Are there times using walking meditation just to recall a sutta or each part of a sutta with each step?
It's a great question. Yeah, so the question was about using walking meditation while chanting and as like a memory aid, and in the specifics of how to do that. And yeah, I mean, there are modern studies. There's well, it's been given a name within the last 30 years, but a memory technique for learning languages, which is called coursing, which is basically where you or echoing, where you listen to someone say something in your target language, and then you repeat after them. And there are certain teachers, Arguelle, Arguelle, who teaches that he finds it most, he's a super polyglot, someone who knows multiple languages, finds that actually doing the coursing while walking meditation is back and forth is super helpful. And I personally find that to be the case. With suttas, you might want to take, rather than doing every step, because then that would be extremely slow if you did like 1 verse for every step. If you could keep your balance that long, then it might be a good balance exercise. But for suttas, say like if you're memorizing the Dhammapada, which I know a number of lay people who are doing that now. I know a number of monks who've done it, memorized the whole Dhammapada. If you take, say within 1 hour, I'm just going to be focused on memorizing the first chapter, so the first 20 stanzas of the Dhammapada, which is reasonable. And you can kind of go back and forth. So even with just the first stanza. So manopu bangama dhamma manoseta manomaya manasache padutena basti wakaroti watatonang anveti chakang va bahatopadang dukang anveti. So basically like fairly short. Yeah, that's like you say it at a normal speed and it's maybe 10 or 15 seconds. Take that and then maybe try looking at your book for, one walk back and forth. And then the next time try looking without your book back and forth like that. So having your book on the side and doing it like that.
Can I add something?
Yeah, please.
I also used to memorize suttas while walking. And the way I was doing it was that I would have the sutta as an audio recording, like a relatively slow paced chanting of the sutta as an audio recording, and I would just listen to it on repeat as I was walking, and it starts sticking in the mind. So just listening to it on repeat constantly as walking. This works better with short suttas, of course. If you do this with a long sutta, you'll just lose all of it. But with short suttas, this can be very effective.
And are you trying to say it with the speaker?
Yeah.
And were you doing that at Abhayagiri when you were there?
Yeah, that's how I don't know if you recall, I was memorizing the Majjhima Nikaya. That was how I memorized a bunch of the Majjhima Nikaya.
I think I had left by that time, but you and I were memorizing them together, but you would memorize them in like a day. Bhante Sudaso is a very impressive memorizer. So, yeah.
So would you coordinate each part of that with a step, or would you just listen and walk? Does it make
I would
sense?
just listen and walk. I wasn't coordinating it with the steps.
Okay.
Do you have any thoughts on that?
No. One other method for mental focus while walking is Thich Nhat Hanh will teach like coordinating the breath with each step, but I've never found that to work. And I would think that with suttas it would be the same. I mean, Pali is not actually, you've got short and long syllables, and it doesn't naturally lead itself well to like a military cadence, like lip, right. You wouldn't be able to do that in, would it be Dakina, Vangsa, Dakina, whatever.
It doesn't work.
It doesn't work, yeah.
The Pali is too syncopated. It doesn't line up well.
Yeah.
All right. And Mike says, thank you for sharing this today. Ajahn Kovilo, I find walking meditation helps me with metta, especially when the only option for walking is around people.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Walking meditation around people is like an advanced practice. That's like level 3.0. I mean, yeah, for me, I will, try to be as like secluded as possible. But if you can't, if your only option is being around people, then, I guess metta might have to be the thing. Because especially in America, people have no idea what you're doing. They think you're like catatonic, or people have no idea what's wrong with you. They assume that you're, something's a bit off. So great to hear that you're doing that.
Great. And Ajahn, actually, I was wondering if you could elaborate a little bit more on the sutta, the last point, where it says the concentration attained through walking meditation is long lasting. I'm reading from Bhikkhu Bodhi's retreat. So I don't know how Ajahn Tanisaro translated it, but Ajahn Sujato has a similar thing. So do you think it's referring to the concentration, so samadhi while walking, or that walking meditation creates conditions for long-lasting samadhi in sitting meditation?
The Pali might help. So Ajahn Jeff's translation is the concentration one wins while doing walking meditation lasts for a long time. The Pali, for all you Pali files, we've got 3 nominatives followed by a verb. So chankamadi gato samadhi chiratitiko hoti. So basically, you can think of these as all kind of those first 3 substantives, nouns, kind of modifying another. So the samadhi, which is chankamadi gato, So the samadhi which is attained through Kancama, Jongrom, walking meditation, is chira, long, titiko, lasting. So samadhi of walking meditation lasts a long time. So that's one interpretation. Your other interpretation was like
that perhaps kind of connected to the other one, the second point. So walking meditation makes you fit for striving in meditation. So at the same time, then would create conditions for one to be capable of having a long and steady samadhi.
after you sat down.
After you sat down.
After you sat down. Yeah, that points to an interesting thing. I mean, there are, I think, differing opinions. Most traditional interpretations of, say, like jhana, so this is talking about samadhi, but most interpretations of jhana basically say that you can't do jhana while doing walking meditation. But samadhi is a broader term, which, I think one could make a case that you are cultivating, samadhi as you're doing walking meditation. One interpretation of samadhi is basically sati over time is samadhi. So the extent to which I can sati, that capacity is concentration, is samadhi. So I think in my interpretation of it, we are practicing samadhi to some extent as we are doing walking meditation, and whether or not we can reach a level of jhana, that's maybe debatable. But certainly, I think it would have both benefits. You're cultivating it while you're doing it, and it is the case that no matter what you're doing throughout your day, whether you're doing walking meditation or talking with mindfulness, or drinking tea with mindfulness, if you're keeping your mind mindful, even if you're not in samadhi, when you do go to sit samadhi, formal meditation posture, your mind is more on point. So I think it has both interpretations, but yeah, good question, good point.
Great, thank you so much. Great, and if there are no other questions, then I think that's all for this morning. Thank you so much, John, for sharing that beautiful sutta and the teachings of the Buddha. So we can all end with 3 sadhus. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. So see you all again this evening, hopefully at 7:30 p.m. New York City time. May you all be well and happy.